Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome to the bonus show. We're, okay. Well, I don't need to explain that. David, apparently construction is continuing at the New York studio, and this time it's some type of drilling. It's the loudest. It's the loudest we've heard.
If people could only see, there's literally a scaffold. It's now moved directly outside of the office. There are 5 guys looking in at me and drilling as we are taping the bonus show. It's quite incredible. We're going to do the best we can with it.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll start with. I'll start with the bonus show. This is impossible.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. I'm going to see if these guys, wow, they're like strapped in. It's quite amazing. Okay, now they're moving down. I've never seen scaffolds that can not only move up and down, but side to side, but they're using them here. It's incredible. They're like 4-way elevators.
Motorized, incredible stuff.
Yeah. All right. There we go. They're just drilling off my entire office. Don't worry.
All right. A python has eaten a human being, a full-grown man in India. The man got drunk outside of a liquor store. And, well, the drilling is still happening, of course. And the python, I guess, just kind of snuck up on him and swallowed the guy whole, as pythons do, including the bottle of liquor that the man was holding on to. And there are pictures of it here. And the snake's body is so, like, bloated, swollen, huge, because it's got the whole body of this man in him. And we've seen these snakes swallow a lot of things, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've heard of them swallowing a man in its entirety.
Yeah, I have not heard of it recently either. How these things seem to happen in very particular circumstances where afterwards we find out that there was like some key thing that someone was doing wrong at some point. But is that the case here, or was this just a freak thing? Like, why was the guy near the python?
I think the python probably just was, for some reason, in a residential area, and this guy just passed out in front of a liquor store. And you thought that getting a dick drawn on your face was the worst thing that would happen when you passed out. This is insane.
Yeah, the other thing also is that the fear of snakes to me has always been kind of like a, well, but how often are you just around violent, angry or dangerous snakes? Growing up in the Northeast, not really that often, but I actually have met more and more people from Florida and other parts of the South, and they are actively very, very afraid of snakes being around.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Everglades has I'm not sure if it's exactly pythons, maybe pythons, but they do have a problem with them. Could be because they were, I don't know, a couple of them were let loose into the wilderness there, and they are just dominant and spreading and growing, and there are some massive snakes there. So I think Florida is probably the only place you'd have to worry about something like this happening to you if you pass out drunk. But in other countries, yeah, I guess it's more likely to happen. Pretty incredible stuff. I feel bad for the guy. It's not a good way to go. It's pretty embarrassing, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, sad stuff. Hope he didn't have a family or anything. Here's an interesting story. We've talked about the Pentagon pirating or drilling. Give me a minute here. Do we even know what these guys are doing exactly?
No, they've been doing work on the building since I moved in. I never see anything different. But you know how these construction projects are. A lot of times you got to do a lot of preliminary work before you can really get to making any improvements.
All right. Let's hope that this is not just preliminary work. We talked about the Pentagon pirating shows through torrents, like popular TV shows, movies, that type of thing. And what were they claiming, David? That they were just doing this to monitor piracy or something like that?
Yeah, they were trying to just figure out what's being most pirated and then use that information for some kind of like, government stuff.
All right. Well, the U.S. government now has been caught pirating licensed military software and has had to pay $50 million to the company that created the software. Now, the name of the software was, let's see, I don't know, but in 2004, this company Aptricity signed a contract with the U.S. Army to license the software to them that manages troops and supply movements. And the deal allowed the government to use the software on 5 servers and 150 standalone devices. Well, they didn't do that. It's on 93 servers and more than 9,000 standalone devices. And the licensing fees were $1.35 million per server and $5,000 per device.
So they owe quite a bit of money at this point.
Well, the settlement was only for $50 million, although normally they would have had to pay $224 million. So, I mean, essentially, this is pirating, right? I mean, it's kind of like using that copy of Windows that you had back in the day and giving it to all your friends, and same thing, right?
It's the exact same thing, and it's amazing that those who are enforcing these types of laws and prosecuting them are guilty of the same type of nonsense. It's just incredible. And what was the explanation for why they weren't entitled to the full amount?
I'm trying to find that here. Let's see. Now, I'm not really sure. I guess it's the figure represents a fraction of the software's negotiated contract value that provides a material quantity of server and device licenses for ongoing and future Department of Defense usage. That was the comment from Aptricity. So I don't know. I feel like it was one of those just agreements where they want to keep doing business with each other. Obviously, a company like this wants government contracts. I mean, that's the pinnacle of, of business right there. So who knows? Maybe just a good business decision, but crazy stuff coming to us from the government, and not surprising. I mean, the government usually does not cut corners on things like this. Of course, why would they be cutting corners? I mean, originally this was $1.35 million per server for this software. Pretty incredible stuff. Are you glad that they didn't spend $224 million and instead pirated this stuff?
Right.
I mean,
the fiscally conservative,
right?
the fiscally conservative thing would be, hey, they were saving money and they're not wasting more tax money. No, I mean, the thing is, it's such a micro element of like a macro problem, which is the entire defense spending mechanism of the government, that I would rather them not even make such a deal in the first place. But if you do, if you support private business, supposedly, then if you make a contract, you have to uphold the contract. That's what it is. Yeah, I'd rather this type of contract never be made and that we didn't even need this type of thing. But once you make the agreement, you have to stick to it.
All right. Well, that's it. You've heard it from the man. Shame on you. Shame on you, government. There's a funny story here. We've talked about foiled murder plots and funny coincidence stories. This one is incredible. A butt dial foiled a murder. And basically, there was James Macomb overheard his former employer, Larry Barnett, telling a suspected hitman to make the killing look like an accident. Basically, what happened was this Larry guy, who I guess hired a hitman to take out James, took out his phone, looked up the information, address or phone number or whatever on his phone, then put it back in his pocket. And then when he sat down, butt dialed the guy whose information he was just looking up, the man who he wanted dead.
Wow.
This was while he was talking to the hitman. I guess they were in the same room. And then he overhears him saying, make it look like an accident, blah, blah, blah. So the guy immediately goes to the police. He goes to the police station and files a report. He returns to his home with the police. And in that time, someone had broken in and started a gas leak. So this happened immediately, I guess. And the timing was, pretty incredible.
Is a gas leak even the best way to try to kill someone? Because most natural gas has an added odor so that people notice the odor and they call the gas company, right? I mean, it's kind of, is that even really a reliable way? What kind of a hitman was this? It sounds very second rate.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, unless you're spending $100,000 plus on a hitman, you're probably not getting someone who's very professional. But I guess we can say this was probably a budget hitman, as most are.
I have to wonder if you're at the type of hitman who charges like 20 grand or something like that. How many, like, can your career really go that long? Because just to make $100,000, right, over, I don't know how many hits a year you can have, but to make $100,000 from killing people, mind you, you have to kill and get away with 5 murders, essentially, right? And are police that bad that a $20,000 hitman can kill 5 people, presumably in slightly different ways, or at least slightly different circumstances, locations, and get away with all of them? It just seems so risky. Like, how many people you have to kill and not get caught to really have a significant nest egg?
Yeah. And that's why I would imagine the ones who, I don't know, take it a bit more seriously and dedicate their life to it probably charge a lot more. And I don't know, probably get away with it way more often.
I mean, it's like you have to not ever get caught for the murders. You have to not ever get caught in a sting where police are actually trying to hire you. It seems like pretty risky business.
Very, very. And if it were me, yeah, I would be charging. I don't know how much I would charge. I mean, I guess it would depend on the risk level of the target, right? I mean, I'd like to think that I would charge at least a minimum of $250,000, and that
listen to this.
no, and that I wouldn't do it frequently. I mean, it would have to be a very infrequent thing, right?
I guess, but how would you even do it where you're not at risk for getting caught by the police?
Well, you have to operate in secrecy. Even the people who are hiring you probably shouldn't know who you are or ever see your face, or have any type of physical evidence or information that could lead to you. And then you have to just be a complete pro at actually executing the hit, right?
Would you try to go with these setting it up to make it look like an accident or suicide, or would you go with more completely disappearing the person, Breaking Bad style?
Yeah, that's tough. See, if it's someone who has a lot of enemies, I'd imagine that you could make it look like it was like a sloppy hit, even though you would personally leave no evidence that you did it yourself. But then again, if it's someone who, I don't know, who people didn't want dead, your best bet would probably be to make the person disappear. And of course, that's a lot harder than just, I don't know, quickly breaking into the house and shooting them. I mean, that's really involved. So, I don't know. Anyway.
Thank you.
So that probably sounds like I've done this before or something. Maybe I've just watched a lot of movies and shows, played a lot of video games. I assure you all, I have never killed anybody, nor do I plan to. Yeah, we'll end on that.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.